Welcome to Pilgrim Church in Birmingham, Alabama. This is the second Sunday of September, the 26th Sunday of non-ordinary time. Our world is racing toward elections and disease and conflict, but we are here. So I invite you to bring yourself to this moment. Allow everything else to be set free, and let's begin our worship. Our opening hymn is God is Here as we, your people, meet. The words will be on your screen.
God is Still Speaking by Omar Saif Ghobash. It is entirely normal to wonder if you got it right about anything, let alone religious matters.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in white. God's gonna trouble the water. The leader looks like the Israelite. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. God's gonna trouble the water. It looked like the band that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water.
During the month of September, we're providing different kinds of prayer experiences during these worship services. And these are taken from Blessings and Rituals for Unsheltering by the Still Speaking Writers Group. And today's prayer is a meditation for when people who ignore safety recommendations are making you mad as heck. Would you join me in prayer? Jesus, you said pray for your enemies. There's sneaky wisdom in that. If you're really praying for someone, it's a lot harder to hate them. And if you keep it up sincerely over time, you might even start to love them. What happens after that is anybody's guess. My guess, good Jesus, is that it all leads to meeting you in them and to discovering that they are wounded too. What happens then, once I know that? Once I learn we share one single shattered heart. I've never been there, Jesus. I don't know. But as the heat rises in my brain, the censure, consternation, and the rage I wish I did. Because right now I just want to haul off and pummel them. Smack some sense into them, smack them good. So Jesus, teach me to pray. Amen.
Sitting or standing, let us offer our reverence for the word from God found in the Epistle to the Romans, chapter 14. There are many ways to honor God. Welcome those who are weak in faith, but not for the purpose of quarreling over opinions. Some believe in eating anything, while the weak eat only vegetables. Those who eat must not despise those who abstain, and those who abstain must not pass judgment on those who eat, for God has welcomed them. Who are you to pass judgment on servants of another? It is before their own Lord that they stand or fall, and they will be upheld, for Adonai is able to make them stand. Some judge one day to be better than another, while others judge all days to be alike. Let all be fully convinced in their own minds. Those who observe the day observe it in honor of Adonai. Also, those who eat in honor of Adonai, since they give thanks to God, while those who abstain in honor of Adonai and give thanks to God. We do not live to ourselves, and we do not die to ourselves. If we live to Adonai. And if we die to Adonai. So then, whether we live or whether we die, we are Adonai's. For to this end Christ died and lived again, so that he might be over both the dead and the living. Why do you pass judgment on your brother or sister? Or why do you despise your brother or sister? For we will all stand before the judgment seat of God. For it is written, as I live, says Adonai, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall give praise to God. So then, each of us will be accountable to God. Listen for the word from God. Thanks
Thanks be to God.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, all creatures here below. Praise God for all that love has done. Creator Christ and Spirit one.
During the first century of the Common Era, when Christianity was trying to find a new identity as a movement that was birthed out of Judaism, but was no longer part of Judaism, people began doing what people usually do when faced with a dilemma. They made some rules. And I mean, it makes sense, right? How do we decide who is us and who is them unless there are some rules? So in Romans, some said it had to do with what we eat. Others said it had to do with what we don't eat. Some said there were certain times when prayers should be said. Others said that it didn't matter when one prayed, as long as you prayed the right prayers. So who gets to decide what is acceptable to eat and which prayers are the right ones and prayed the right ways? Well, you see, by the time the Epistle to the Romans was written, Christian congregations were no longer simply former Jews who followed the message of Jesus. There was also a growing Gentile presence in the churches who had no experience about Jewish ritual, Jewish worship style, or kosher cooking. So Paul tries to address how this congregation could thrive with a diverse group of people with very strongly held beliefs about what it meant to be faithful. Aren't you glad we don't have to struggle with that kind of stuff anymore? I mean, I'm glad we don't have to worry about what we do in worship or how we make decisions or how the sanctuary is decorated or what profession of faith looks like for new people. We probably should pay close attention to how these early Christians made their way through such a minefield, because we haven't been very good at it. Because you do realize, don't you, that right now we have over 600 Christian denominations in the United States alone because of these kinds of conflicts. Now, I don't want to be dismissive of the real differences that people have over what it means to be faithful. But a closer examination of why we think and believe the way we do might be revealing. I mean, sometimes the differences are based in fear. If we don't do it right, God will punish us. Sometimes they're based on principle. If we want to imitate Jesus, then we have to pay attention to things like privilege or systemic oppression and so forth. But you see, most of the time, there's really a mixture of passion, history, familiarity, the way our families used to do it, a desire to please God. So Paul attempts to introduce a different measure when considering, why do we do the things we do? Why do we worship the way we do? Why do we hold the opinions the way we do? And his advice is this: to tell whether it is a good action, decision, or opinion, does it honor God? Now, make no mistake, even this guidance can be twisted into evil. I mean, having lived my life immersed in white privilege, I have seen racism propped up by white people who despise non-white people because they believe that honors God somehow. I believe a better label for such an idea is called blasphemy. But let's not let the ways of others define who we are. Let's look at the standard that Paul points to. And Paul says the best way to honor God is to imitate Jesus. You see, the Jesus of the Bible gives us the best hope for finding what it means to live lives that honor God. Not the Jesus that we try to create in our own image, but the man who actually embodied God's grace. Paul clearly has this standard in mind when he implores the Roman church to resist the petty and to keep the important as our guide. Yes, what we eat, how food is raised and harvested, its impact on the environment are important to us. So how do we love those who don't recognize that importance? Yes, having standards to meet the qualified leadership and for having quality communal relationships are important. So how do we love those who don't recognize this importance? Yes, calling out political leaders who insult the values of decency and respect is important. You know the question. So how do we love those who can't see it happening right in front of their eyes? This stuff isn't easy. So Paul says, when we need to choose what it means to be Christian, what it means to live faithfully, what it means to honor God, then we have to be open to what we value. And for me, it all comes down to this. You see, I am at my best when I trust God, when I choose to trust God's grace. If there is a choice between judging someone for what they eat or the opinion they hold or what they do or don't do, I choose to trust grace. Sometimes I have to take a deep breath when I see someone abusing the values that I try to live by. And still I try to choose to trust grace. And I don't always get it right. So I have to keep reminding myself again and again that the way to honor God is to trust God's grace. I haven't found any other alternative that works. I can't force others to believe like I do, to act like I do, to vote like I do. So all we can do is do everything we can to honor God by trusting grace. In our actions, let us honor God. In our relationships, let us honor God. In loving those who make it hard to love them, let us honor God. And whenever we choose grace, like Jesus did, I think we honor God. Now, one of the side benefits of living like this as Christians is that it releases us from the snare of putting all of our effort into changing someone else. You see, my relationship with Jesus has nothing to do with what I think about how somebody else is attempting to be faithful, particularly when they have no interest in my opinion at all. So let it go. Give it up. Honor God, trust grace, and love them. You'll be amazed at how much lower your blood pressure will go when you give up trying to control somebody else. Honor God, trust grace, love them. Don't become ensnared in convincing someone else how wrong they are. Just honor God, trust grace, and love them. Quit trying to make someone else make the decisions you would make. Honor God, trust grace, and love them. But they are making stupid mistakes, we say. They are believing crazy ideas. They are voting for the wrong person. They're not wearing a mask, believing those who do not have their best interest at heart. Honor God, trust grace, and love them. See, being a Christian, following Jesus, has nothing to do with convincing others that they are wrong. How did we get it so wrong? Following Jesus simply means honoring God, trusting grace, and loving others. Amen. Our closing hymn is "They'll Know We Are Christians by Our Love." The words will be on your screen. Before we go today, I just want to remind you of a few things. For September, first of all, we want to celebrate those of you that are having birthdays and anniversaries. Jane Phillips' birthday was September 4th. Reverend Pamela Kanzader is September 20th. Elizabeth Cheney is September 23rd. Our special music had birthdays today. And Colby and Chaley Lawson have their wedding anniversary on September 7th. Happy anniversary and birthday to all. I'll remind you that we tape these worship services every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. here at Pilgrim. You're welcome to join us. Bring your mask, and we'll be delighted to have you as a part of this social distance worship experience. The book club continues our study of Not in God's Name, Confronting Religious Violence by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And this next Sunday, we will be reading chapters 10 and 11. Some of you have been already sent in your guesses for this month's prize for winning a piece of stained glass from Reverend Ronald Vanderschaft. This is the piece of stained glass that you have to guess the number of triangles in. It is found in the September newsletter for Pilgrim, so that is on our website. You can find it there. You can count the number of triangles, send that guess in to my email address, and we're going to announce the winner on October 4th. So you have a little while to guess and count them and count them a second time, because there are more triangles here than you think there are. So send in your guests to us and we'll be glad to announce the winner very, very soon. And one last announcement I want to let you know about is World Communion Sunday is October 3rd, or World Communion Day is October 3rd. And this year, Pilgrim Church and Covenant Community Church are going to offer communion together on a stop-by social distance basis. It will be from noon to 2. That is on a Saturday, October 3rd. And we'll be putting that up on the website as well. You can stop by and have communion with us that day. Thank you for being here today. It is the highlight of my week to be able to gather and worship with all of you. Even when I can't see your faces, I know your presence is there and I see your clicks on the site. So thank you for viewing, for sharing with your friends, and for letting other people know that this experience is available to them. May you go this week, and whatever you experience, whoever you meet, simply honor God, trust grace, and love them. Amen.